Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. So I've had a lot of requests to do something with the Syma X11 quadcopter, so here it is. I picked one up from GearBest. It says it's for ages 14 plus, so I think I just about make that. Now there are lots of videos out there already, but I want to do something a little bit different today, so let's do an unboxing. Just take this out of the box there. Just move that away. What's all this bag of bits? Mine looks a little bit different. Okay, so of course I'm not just gonna do a review of the Syma X11 because there are lots of them. What I wanted to do was modify it, and so I have added the Hubsan controller. Let's just take this out the box. So this is the actual controller that you get with it, which is a really nice controller, and it flies really well. This is the original controller board as well. My problem with it is a couple of things. I fly mode 1. And this is mode 2, and I did take this apart to see whether it would be easy to convert to mode 1, and it can be done, but I didn't want to mess around with it. I have this mega Hubsan controller that I have created with a 5-watt Wi-Fi booster, and what I was hoping to do with this, okay, so I actually skipped this one. I didn't get it because I figured that my current setup was already fine enough for what I'm doing FPV wise. What one of my subscribers alerted me to was the fact that this uses geared motors, and that means that it can use much smaller motors than, say, a quad not using gears, and it can lift more than it normally would if the propeller was connected directly to the motor. And also you'll get much better flight times. Now, that was the thing that sort of attracted me to this. The flight time, people were saying if you use the 500 milliamp battery, you can get a flight time of 15 minutes. Now, when I first got this, I did fly it with the 500 milliamp battery, and I got about 11 minutes, something like that. So I'm not sure how people are getting 15 minutes, but great if you are. So, actually, yes, so I bought this as the X11, but on the box here you can see, it says it's the X11C, and I believe X11C, the C part, stands for camera. Now, this definitely wasn't the camera version. It has this dummy camera in the front, so I'm not sure if they're just, trying to save on packaging or whatever, but this was the non-camera version. So why have I dissected it like this? Well, there's a few reasons. Okay, so I am usually flying this, which has got 8.5mm motors, and as you can see there, the motor size is quite significantly different. So what I am hoping to do is that this usually carries my FPV platform. So as some of you may have seen before, this is my favorite FPV platform, and I literally just band it to different quads. Underneath there I've got about 12 of these different quads, and so I wanted to be able to do that with this. Now the problem was, right, I did try it in its standard form with all this extra weight on there, and it wouldn't lift it. It was at about, say, it did lift it, but it was about 95% throttle hover, which is no good. So what I realized was you can actually just remove all of this stuff, all the underneath, and save a considerable amount of weight. These motors here are wedged in, and they don't go anywhere. So now I can literally just band this to the bottom here. It's not very neat, but hopefully that will give us a nice indoor flying platform. A bit of a consequence of removing all that stuff means that these are quite flexible and you don't quite get a stable flight as this, but this is just so much lighter than this, and it does have some real benefits of these cogged motors, more than I had realized actually, because these propellers are bulletproof. I have smacked this into stuff, I have done massive crashes. There is not a mark on these propellers compared to these ones, which, as you can see there, are completely bent up the top there. So the Hobson propellers are really quite weak. These ones are really strong, and not only are they strong because they are screwed in, they don't fly off either. The only thing that happens is because I've removed the motor casing is sometimes it has to be a really bad crash, one of the motors pops out. So yeah, but much better for indoor use than this, and actually I've been really surprised. I think this may replace my indoor platform from this, and I will sort of retire this one as an indoor FPV and use this one for more outdoor stuff, but indoor this is brilliant, and we'll take a look at it in a bit. What I'm going to do though before that is just show you how I connected the Hobson controller, because there were a couple of things I had to change. This is a close-up of the board, and as you can see, it only fits with one screw in here. So I've got plenty of hot glue underneath to make sure that it stays in place. So I had to switch a couple of the motors around. I did try and solder it up with the motors in the position that they were, but you can see here I've had to switch them around. So if you're wanting to do this same conversion, you can copy mine if you like. The red wire goes to the plus, and the yellow wire goes to the minus, and then on the other side the white wire goes to the plus and the blue wire goes to the minus. So you can set it up that way. I've also added a second connector here, a JST micro, and that is going to plug into my FPV plate. Some of you have seen my FPV plate before, but I will just run you through it. It weighs exactly 10 grams. And so we have got an FPV hobby regulator there to provide the 5 volts to the Pico VTX and the camera. This one is the Pico VTX from Ready Made RC. Choose whichever frequency you like. And then this is the camera from FPV Hobby, the 1 gram camera. So we've got the scales out. Let's see how much this thing weighs like that without the platform, first of all. 16 grams. It's almost the same weight as the Hobson Nano, which is 11 grams. I mean, that is crazy, isn't it? 15 grams, you know? That is just seriously light. And so if we compare it to this one, which is 28 grams, I think this is 40 grams with the FPV plate. So let's stick the FPV plate on this one. So I literally just rubber band it to there, and it's not very attractive, but let's see. We've got 29 grams with the FPV plate, which is less than this without the FPV plate. So that is sort of the attraction here. I mean, look at that, 28 grams. So that must mean then that with the 500 milliamp battery, it's going to be about 40 grams. So let's just see. So we got the battery on. Yeah, 41 grams. So that's the flying weight, 41 grams. This one with the FPV plate is 41 grams without the battery. So we've got a considerable saving there, but it won't lift much more than that. Whereas this one, it's a powerhouse, you know, with that 41 grams of weight. This one is seriously light for its power. It's a shame, really, that there's no 8.5mm geared quad this size. Now, I think the Latrax Alias and also this Syma X11 uses geared motors, but they're a much bigger quad. What I love about this is it's tiny, you know. It's even smaller than this Picnic Quad's frame here. So let's go and see how it flies. One thing that I noticed pretty much instantly with this quad is that you can really throw it around. Because it's lightweight, you can smack it into stuff. It's really tiny as well, so you can really get it into quite tight places that I normally wouldn't try. You can see here, though, that it is quite squirrely. It's bobbing up and down a little bit, and it's not quite as stable as the picnic quads, but it's a lot lighter, you know, so I do think this is only really going to be suited for indoors. I may take it outside on a calm day and see what it's like, but look at this. I wouldn't dare go between the wall there previously. I would hit it, and just underneath these chairs, it's not somewhere I've flown before. I tell you, it's like flying a 250 size quad inside. You can just try and get through little cracks, and like look through here. It's just, alright, I kind of bash it a little bit, but I do a lot of practicing of this, I should say, in this video. You will see a lot of that. But can just really throttle around. And just look at this, just skimming the sofas. It's a lot of fun. But let's get to sort of the serious stuff, why I did this. So the flight time, right? The flight time, flying around like this indoors, is about 9.5 minutes. I think the least I got was 9 minutes flat, and the most I got was 10 minutes. So it is going to vary quite a bit, as it does on my other geared quad. I guess, you know, each maneuver you do is going to use more power and less power and things like that. So it does vary, so quite difficult to set a timer, but it doesn't really matter anyways. One thing that I did notice, though, and I do have this on my other geared quads as well, is there's no real low voltage warning. The LVC cuts in and you've got about 5 seconds, and then you've got no more flight. Now, that is a characteristic of the V666 quadcopter that I have reviewed on my channel. I think it must be something to do with the fact that it's geared, and I don't know whether it can use more of the battery until it reduces the voltage, or it's using more of the voltage. I'm not quite sure, but one thing is for sure, though, the flight time is considerably increased. Inside, I get about 6 minutes with the previous setup, which isn't too bad. And I will say, actually, that indoors, you know, after 10 minutes, you've kind of had enough. You know, it's quite intense flying around like this quite fast. Obviously, you don't have to fly around as fast as this, but one thing I was concerned about was because it is kind of a bit squirrely and twitchy on the sticks compared to my picnic quads, that it wouldn't be so accurate when you were guiding it through stuff. But look at this, it's fine. It's threading the needle here, flying. I mean, the space in those chairs is so tight, although I did smack into it there. I did a lot of smacking into stuff, as I mentioned, and the props completely went undamaged. So it does come with a pair of spare props. One, like, I say pair, you get 4 blades, you know, so you've got enough to go through one set of blades. I think I will buy some more blades because I think I'm going to be flying this around the house quite a lot. So yeah, really surprised about this, actually. Didn't think that it was going to work as well as it did. Just, it sort of opened up flying in the house a bit more, just because I can get into much tighter spots. I did try and do some flips indoors. That didn't go well, so yeah, can't really do any flips with this. It just loses too much height. I think it is a little bit overweight for this quad. You can't really go and add like a HD recorder on this, but you can just thread the needle around the house. Just really cool. Kind of a weird shot there of kind of looking at itself. I did try and go through this really thin part of the table, and I did get through sort of, but I did bash it a little bit, so a little bit more practice needed there, I think. So yeah, tell me what you think in the comments. Like, I think it's come out pretty well. It is a lot noisier than the other quad, so just bear that in mind. I mean, I'll just wait until the house is empty like this and do some flying. And the props don't seem to do as much damage either. I think if you smack the props into stuff, I don't know if it's because there's less torque on the motor with it being, you know, geared and that, and it stops easier. But yeah, I think this is a failed attempt here, so we'll end it there. Thanks ever so much for watching, and please continue to subscribe. Cheers.